Hermitcraft will never be the same again. No, not with this foreboding presence looming over the commercial area. This place is rapidly expanding, and it is great to be a part of what's going on here. We are simply not done with our build on the hill, and I have been putting in some work to take this thing to the next level. But currently, it does look like a little bit of a mess out here, doesn't it? And if you didn't catch the end of the last episode, I want to make everyone know that this creation right here was put together by Blaze85. I pitched them the idea for my shop, and they were able to create this beautiful vision for us. It's beautiful in a kind of dark and grisly kind of way, and if you want to follow Blaze on Twitter, I'll put a link to their description box down below. They share really amazing and inspiring builds on a regular basis. And it's got me inspired to finish this build up and then add some of my own touches to it in the space out front. But first of all, I kind of had to establish the rest of the terrain around here. Look, buddy, I'm trying to record. So when the terrain doesn't quite match what you want, you got to build it up. And sometimes it's nice to throw in a break from the regular grass that we got down here. And what's been super useful when building is my free cam mod, which allows me to fly around like this. It lets me get a quick reference point, and yes, I totally spotted that creeper. This is a cheaty kill. I would never have spotted you here. I've actually had quite a few creeper explosions while working on all of this. You know, the dark oak forest, it does create dark patches for mobs to spawn, and some of you will be like, you know, duh. Of course, it's the dark oak forest. But remember, in this update there were light changes, and so now it should be even harder for mobs to spawn up here, yet they still seem to do on a consistent basis. So anyway, I've been going around figuring out the outside of this, using the camera just to like step back and get a quick view and make modifications, and that has actually helped a tremendous amount. So over on this side, I've extended a little bit of the mossy stone downwards, as well as some of the brown patches and more moss over here. And we got the beginning of a little bit of a shanty town that is going to be constructed in this space here. I call it a town, it's going to be more like, you know, a couple of buildings. And this is all in the name of telling a story. We have an arm from some sort of beast that is buried under the ground, extending up into the sky. A structure has been built around it to preserve it, and some inhabitants have decided to live over in this space. So we need to build that up, and that is exactly what I'm going to do next with the space we have here. And we're also going to be doing this in stages. You can really feel it actually coming together. The vibe here is pretty sweet. And with this, we got some additional bones that are poking out of the ground. And this again is just really selling the whole bone theme, because these bones sticking out of the ground are going to be used to like hold up the shantytown structure. And here is the very first part of that. As you can see, looking a bit rustic and run down. There's more building to be done that's going to come out from here, but I got to air some grievances. This has taken me way too much time. Let me explain. Because I'm rebuilding something that Blaze has built, I'm using the schematic. We've talked about this, the use of the Lightmatica mod. This is showing me where all the blocks to go, and that is actually like painfully slow when it comes to all of this detail work. My inventory is constantly full to the brim. I'm walking back and forth trying to fish out a couple of blocks among many, and it is just, it's too much. If I were to be doing this organically in vanilla, I'd be, you know, building the structure with what's in my inventory, gathering a bunch of blocks to add in the details, and sort of doing passes on the structure, and that wouldn't take as long. This way though, it's really crazy. It's been hours just to put this together. And then I fell into the hole. So I wanted a break from all this, and I decided to work on the path that's going to connect up to the area over there. This was a pleasure to put together. It feels really nice to just change up the pace and build something like this. And once again, I'm loving the free cam, because I can just drop out and see how you would see this if you were flying over or looking from somewhere else on the server. And so currently it's lacking a third aspect. We've got like the terrain of grass and dirt, then we've got all the stones, and then we need something to offset that, like another colour. And I think what we're going to do is go with bones. So like this ribcage like bone over here, what I want to do is have a ribcage down the side of this mountain. I can't remember if I mentioned this idea or not. At some point though, that's going to have to end, and then maybe down here what we'll have is bits of bone poking out of the side. And anyway, it comes around to this spot. I think that's where it's going to end, and then we're just going to have like a good old bridge that goes down into this space and eventually connects up with one of these roads. So, what do we think of these? I think they look alright when you're down here on the path, but they probably need a little bit of a redesign. If we jump out like this, you can see that these bones, well, the shape of this one isn't so great. This one's probably a little better, but I think they probably need to just be less archy. Like, it's hard to make the bends work unless you're going to really commit to them, like over here. And I think the problem with this is just the bottom of it. Like, the ribcage probably needs to come from under the path and wrap around it more. So I'm pretty much going to rebuild everything you see I've done so far. So you build, you learn, you improve, and this, my friends, looks so much better. I didn't try to like curve the top of the ribcage bones around. They're just poking out the side, and I feel like the density and spacing sort of gives you a hint that they're a ribcage, and then over here just a few random ones on its own. But I gotta say, it's starting to feel like maybe this green doesn't fit in quite as well. So over in this area we've used a lot of brown and moss green around the edges. Maybe we'll transform that later on. I am starting to feel though like I need a break from this area, and before we leave, some of you may have noticed this thing over here. The question is, what exactly is that? This, my friends, is the next evolution, for I have evolved into the Bone Mage. This, my friends, is my glorious crown. Doesn't it look superb? Wouldn't it fit this head just wonderfully well? Aha, something like this. But once again, the free cam is going to be extraordinarily useful here, because now we can see it from the sides. The movement of this cam, like, I wish we could just make it a little smoother and slicker. Oh yes, that's much more like it. Now we can get a way better look at the Bone Mage's helm right here. It's obviously the skull of some sort of beast, and it perfectly fits this Doom guy's head. And let me tell you this is not the last transformation we are going to see. And before I take a break from working on this project, I should actually like open the shop. It's kind of ready for people to make their way up here. And so now, with a couple of trips around the server, I put together these lecterns and stocked up these barrels. So we're selling not only bone blocks, but bones as well. So next up, my friends, it's time for a rather large change in pace. So, are we on Hermitcraft right now? Has it been updated to 1.19? The answer to both of those questions is indeed no. I am actually on a backup of the world at the moment because I wanted to investigate 1.19. And by this I mostly mean take on the ancient city and actually avoid the warden. Like, the point of the warden is you don't really want to take it on. Now, ancient cities are extremely rare, and whenever the server updates to 1.19, everyone's gonna want to be jumping on that. So I figured it would be quite some time before I get to do that myself in survival Minecraft. So I thought, well, why don't I just go into a world, give myself some gear, and take on the ancient city. But I pretty much like to use all of the gear that I just have available to me on Hermitcraft, as that's where I play survival Minecraft. And I also didn't really have too much time to be doing something else other than making a Hermitcraft episode, so I figured let's combine the two, and then that way I'll be able to give you your weekly Hermitcraft episode on time. Now, when we take on the ancient city, there's basically three things that we're going to be after, but they all come from the one thing, which is the Sculk Catalyst, right? Once we get our hands on this, we'll then be able to put it with some mob farm and farm the Sculk, which is stored XP, and also Sculk sensors that we can use for redstone contraptions. And of course there are other items too. We have the echo shards and the disc fragments to make up the music disc and the recovery compass. Now, I have played this game long enough and died many times that this item here, as valuable as it is not really a priority for me. And unless I get to the stage in the game where I want to collect all the music discs, this one isn't a priority either. So, let's talk about the world border. By the way, this bit of sandstone right here is naturally generated, and it's really far away from anything else. Alright, let's get familiar with where we are on the server. This is obviously Doc's perimeter, and behind it on one side is the world border, and beyond here is the area that we had reserved for 1.19. And I've been told by the other hermits that there's actually an ancient city not far behind this world border, which is perfect, And the way that we're going to deal with lots of people wanting to go there is to basically have a giant region of the world that's going to be resettable on request. I don't know if that's the final way we're going to do it, but something along those lines. And having located the ancient city with commands, it's about 1,200 blocks somewhere off in this direction. Oh, I'm walking through a birch forest in 1.19. Okay, I won't say anything more than that. Alright, you might have an inkling as to where I am right now. Let's chuck this night vision potion. I also want to give a shout out to Simply Sark, who made an amazing video with tips and tricks on how to take on the ancient city. There are a few of these that I didn't know, like using slow falling potions. If you've got your elytra equipped and you jump up and down, actually you might not need the elytra equipped, but yes, that can prevent vibrations and whatnot from setting off the Sculpt Catalyst, which we do not want to do, and one of our secret weapons is going to be wall blocks. And, you know, I probably needed to bring more than this with me, and I will probably give myself more, but we can place this block without setting off a sensor. We've got one right in front of us. This isn't the ancient city, by the way, so as I make my way over here to the catalyst, which is one of the things I want to pick up, we can block our vibrations like so. And there's actually quite a few of these here. I am holding down shift, I am sneaking, and then now we should be able to collect this. No, I did bad. Okay. What did I do wrong there? Okay, this is not enough, but I saw a particle effect actually come from below. It could be that there's one hidden under the ground, or maybe it's detecting through this space here. Ah, now look at that. That made the difference, right? There is so much learning to do when you take this on in survival, as opposed to learning everything through creative. Okay, we seem to be good, so then I would be able to take this block. Aha, the tool of choice down here is, of course, the hoe. And it's instant. Beautiful. Look at all that XP coming in. So if we wander in this direction, we should see, aha, some diamonds. And then just beyond it, the ancient city. And ironically, we've actually just picked up the one thing that I want to get, the catalyst, already. Which kind of means I could just look for the biome and not the city itself, you know. But since it's a part of the game, we are going to loot some of these chests. And since placing the blocks doesn't set off the sculpt sensors, we're going to use this to get around everywhere. I do not want to set off the warden at all, of course. And so that means every move has to be calculated. And one of the pitfalls, I think, might be eating food. That would set off a sculpt sensor, right? So I gotta pick my moments when I want to do that. But essentially we want to... We want to occlude any vibrations getting to this sculpt sensor. And things like candles generate right next to it. So already the spamming of these wall blocks seems to be what's going to happen to these places, right? Let's open this. Aha, and that has been successfully occluded. Oh, I thought that was going to have the enchantment on it. And you know, I can just going to see this playing out as spamming wall blocks wherever you go, right? Look at what I'm doing here. I'm going to disable this by covering it. No, wait, that doesn't disable it. It's the sculpt sensor that needs disabling. Okay, another one over here encased. And before I start jumping up and down to see if we've done well, we've got a cluster of them up here that need occluding. Okay, these are well and truly encased. I now want to do some experiments to see how much you have to encase them by, but there isn't another sensor nearby, so let's now jump up and down. Aha, we're not setting them off. Okay, night vision is running out. I'm just going to backtrack a little. I think we're away from all the sensors, and then drink this, which can set one off. Okay, and we didn't set anything off. That means this area is probably good for a little test. Okay, so now I'm not holding shift. Okay, I set one off. I think I know what the problem is here. The sculpt sensor detects vibrations through blocks. So if I go... Yeah, I placed that. I was about to jump up and down on it. Aha, it's setting off the 3 that are up here because they don't have wall blocks underneath them. That makes all of this very, very tricky. But these 3 ones right here are not close to a shrieker, so they don't really matter. So I'm going to harvest them. So if you're here for the loot, I guess you just want to focus on surrounding the chest and opening it so it doesn't set off any of the sensors. Surround it like so, go paranoid mode, and then... Aha! Oh! What one got that? Look, there's a block there, and there's probably a sensor on the other side, right? So I'm going to guess the sensor that called us out was this one around the corner here. So it would require, you know, some blocks against the wall. And if my theory is correct, we can now open this. And it's correct. There you go. So I've got to admit it, this feels a little bit underwhelming, but I do not have the risk of the warden coming out and taking all of my items. Even though I'm doing this on survival, because I'm in a backup, it doesn't feel as tense, and I'm sure this would be way more tense if all of my items were on the line. And I'm currently doing the editing, and I just want to say that mobs don't spawn down there in the ancient city. I think it would probably be way too hard with them, right? But also without them, kind of makes it feel all too easy. But this is essentially the game, walking around on wall blocks. Does climbing a ladder set this off? Because that makes a noise, right? And noises are vibrations. I'd guess by the position of that it doesn't, so you're good to climb a ladder. And now I'm up here at the top. I could claim my reward, but I must remember to surround it with wall blocks. So the number one thing I've learned today is make sure you have a sheep farm if you want to go to the ancient city. Also, do you see how the bat in the area is setting off these sensors? That won't activate a shrieker because it's a bat. And look at that, we're good to open this chest, but no. Swift Sneak. Yes, that is actually another really great reason to come here, the enchantment. I forgot about that earlier. I'm starting to think this is all about not making a mistake, and as long as you got your thinking cap on and you don't all of a sudden chug a potion because your night vision ran out, then you're probably going to be alright. It does feel like this place needs something a little more active, because at the moment it's just you, the player, who might mess up, and that's the main risk. So next up, I've deliberately made my way over to where carpet or wall actually already exists. Does this work the same when the sculpt layer is on top though? Okay, I'm actually going to make this little setup here myself since I couldn't find any around. When I place this block, it doesn't set itself off. Okay, so shifting over it, no, it doesn't affect it. Okay, cool. So now I know what the grind is like. Again, playing on a backup of the world doesn't really give you the proper experience. Like, what's the point of me grinding out, collecting all the loot from the chests? But I do think that would be a really fun challenge, you know, to do in the game on a world that really counts. So now that I've got the gist of the challenge, it doesn't feel like there's too much else to learn here, and there's not much point raiding all these chests if I can't take the loot back to Hermitcraft. I do, however, think that the Ancient City is a fantastic addition to the game. It's nice to have something that's about horror and stealth and a mob that you're not actually supposed to kill, which of course is the Warden. But now that we're back on the server for real, there's a reason that I'm here in one of the Nether Hub tunnels, and that's because we're going to add our own Nether portal. I've actually prepped the path over to here, and you'll see our previous Nether portal is just down there, but the one we're going to build is deliberately measured to be in this spot. This will link up with a very specific spot here in the overworld, and I tell you what, as much as I love this prank, I think I'm going to take off the glasses, because when we fly through here, I think it would be cool if there were some purple eyes, and you know what's purple, right? Nether portals. So if we have two, one here, one on that side for each eye, both of them are going to link up at that spot in the Nether. Okay, with our portals in place, I've got to say the eyes are a little bit less impactful, but the glasses are probably making that look rather different. And initially I put some blocks behind the portal here and then kind of realized that I would need to fly through this into this space. And from here, the sight is kind of odd. But the portal is synchronized, and to do that I actually had to rip out the old one, but that's fine because we don't want to use that in the future anyway. So jumping ahead in time as we do in these videos, what do you think of this dark, mysterious tunnel right here? I have a confession to make. I'm in creative mode. Yeah, I wanted to hammer out a design, and I'm actually pretty happy with this. I like the use of candles on the side to sort of variate the light levels and just give it less of a repetitive vibe in here. But then I was reminded of one of the principles that I wanted to use this season, which was to get away from simple repetitive building and do things more organically. The Nether is dark and dingy, and this is like the worst building experience because everything I'm placing is a little bit tricky to see where it goes one to the next. So gotta place this glass with concentration. And it was clearly a better idea to place these before putting the carpet on the edge, because again, the darkness it all kind of blends together. And that is what we want, because we're going to be building a dark and spooky tunnel. And so you might see where it goes from here. We're going to have spaces on the sides, mainly where the path kind of moves in, to put in some bones, which will probably not actually end up forming a rib cage like you saw before. This is going to end up being a boneyard, and as you'll see, I've experimented with some different types of bones. This is supposed to be like a jaw and some teeth, and then we've got a bit of a curvy rib bone. The problem is that the curves don't really work. So rather than repeat myself with these spiky ones that look better over and over again, I have tried to play it up a little bit, but I think it's going to come to life when we build in the background, which is going to be made out of black concrete. Now, the way Tango did the nether hub over there was to build one big square, and I could have done the same thing with this, but I'm going to be a little more economic and just expand the shape of this out where it needs to be expanded out so that you can see the depth behind each of these bone blocks. So when you're walking along, you don't actually see the edges of the black area. But the thing is, when you build this up, you're not really going to notice that there's two odd blocks there. It just becomes completely dark. And so having laid this out on the opposite side, let's build it up. Let's put the ceiling across. That's roughly around this height. I don't know quite how things are going to work out. I think I'm actually just going to build this all straight up like so, and then this across to meet it. And that absolutely works. The atmosphere in here is pretty spooky now. It does need one or two other details in here as well as the bones. And the reason I've done the back here a little different is so you got this natural arc for the entrance, which actually feels pretty good. And I didn't want to change anything on this side. I feel like this is the better way to enter the area. Oh, and what will make this more immersive is spamming down all of the carpets. Okay, yes, this is absolutely going to work. One thing I will say is maybe there should be a different color in the middle, because it's kind of not clear where the path starts and ends. And now the concept is finished, and I've got to say, it does actually feel like something is missing in this area, and I just don't know what. But I think what I'll do is during some live streams, come back in here, and with feedback from all of you, the viewers that are there, we'll be able to make some changes and adjustments as we go. Maybe introduce some new elements. And yeah, we have a very unique and very different tunnel. And I'm very glad that I got that hooked up to the Nether Hub, as we need to start using the infrastructure of the Hermitcraft server and improving our own in our base and doing all sorts of other projects. So yes, today we got our shop up and running. We did some improvised building over there, improvised building behind me, and of course we checked out the Deep Dark. All in all, I had a pretty good time and I hope you did too. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.